Before I start my presentation, I want to show you my new bag and the power of energy saving. And I got this bag Tuesday. I was in Brussels at an energy efficiency event, and I was talking about community choice energy. And I didn't have a bag to go around because traveling from the US, I only had a little carry-on bag. And so my friend's place say, do you have a bag that I can use to carry my thing? And here, so now it's my bag, and I'm going to use it to travel around. And anyway. So today I'm going to talk to you about my research thesis, sustainable energy for cities and local government. And the focus is going to be on a business model that is being implemented in California called community choice energy. And the agenda for today will be a short introduction on the business model, my research task and methodology, and the main findings of my research, some conclusion and recommendation, and a short summary. So what is community choice energy? Community choice energy is also known as community choice aggregation, but because aggregation was a little hard to understand, in California they now use community choice energy. So it's a tool that allows city to aggregate the electricity, that allows cities and counties to procure or generate the electricity for the citizens, residents and businesses of a city. And how does it work? So we see the CCE is in charge of the procurement of generation of the entire electricity of a city. And in this way, it can decide what kind of electricity to procure, more renewable energy or focus more on cost or so on. And the utilities still deliver the electricity. So the utility is still part of the value chain, but in this case, only deliver to the city. And then we have the customer, which are the residents and the businesses. When I did my master thesis, there were only 3 operational CCEs in 2016, and plus 1 because it started in September, and that was San Francisco, the last one. Today, we have 8 full operational CCEs. 8 emerging CCEs means that they're doing their feasibility studies and looking at the model. And more than 20 cities and counties exploring this model. And one of the main drivers for implementing a CCE is because in California, the climate change, so climate policy, is the main driver for the energy. The objective of my master's thesis was to assess the CCE business model. And I decided to do that instead of comparing more the financial and economic results because they were pretty young CCEs and I didn't have enough data. So I decided to a different approach, and I studied the business model and how it could be maybe ameliorated and what were the weaknesses. So the research task was how to design a sustainable and robust CCE business model that allows an increase of renewable energy and energy efficiency investments at the local level. A little bit on the methodology that I used. So first, I analyzed the business model environment, so the external environment where the city lived, the California policy, electricity, and the competitors. So market forces, industry forces, key trend, and macroeconomic forces. And then I went more into detail and I analyzed the business model canvas, which included 9 building blocks. And for the purpose of my thesis, I added 2 additional ones that I'm going to show you later. Then I implemented a weighted SWOT analysis, which included 94 questions to analyze internal critical factors and external factors. And finally, I designed a strategy map with the results of the SWOT analysis. And the strategy maps outlines the key objectives of the third perspective of the balanced scorecard. So it's a little academic, but that was my methodology. For my research, I used 2 case studies. The first one is marine clean energy. It's the first community choice energy started in California, And you see this, it started actually, this is Marin County, and today they expanded, and they also have Napa cities there and some others down in Richmond. And they started in 2010. They currently serves 256,000 customers, and after the expansion again in 2016. And the second one is called Sonoma Clean Power, and it's here in the yellow. I wanted to make orange, but it's actually yellow area. And they started in May 2014, and this serves 191,000. Community Choice Energy Business Model Canvas. So I designed, I analyzed the business model canvas. So the normal 9 building blocks here, which include value proposition, customer segments, customer relationship, and so on. But then I added 2 additional ones, which include social and environmental benefit and social and environmental costs. And so talking about the triple bottom lines approach. Research main findings. California external environment, or CCE external environment. So California has a strong climate and renewable energy goals. The primary competitor is the incumbent utility, because in California there is still a monopoly of the electricity, and 70–75% it's done by utilities, and then we have a 25–30% of the municipality, muni utilities. Policy and regulation do affect CCEs, so it's very important to analyze those. And also, there's a growing industry on renewable energy technology and energy efficiency, and also a changing in consumer behavior. A lot of Californians actually want clean energy. And so that was the analysis of the external environment. Now, a little more in detail. CCE has higher percentage of renewable energy content. We see here Marine Clean Energy has 52% of clean and renewable energy in their electricity. In the base offer, they also have 100%, but it's a different, it's an opt-in. And then Sonoma Clean Power has 36% renewable energy, although they also have 40% of hydropower, but in California, renewable energy does not include large hydro. And so here is only 36%, but in reality, they have like 80% of clean energy. The utility here, you can see, in Northern California is PG&E and Pacific Gas and Electric, and they only have 30% at the moment. Competitive prices, we can see both CCE has a slightly lower electricity price, Marine Clean Energy and Sonoma Clean Power, so they offer to the customers a cheaper electricity compared to the utility. Now we're talking about little difference, but it's a big thing for cities that want to implement CCE. And about the electricity cost structure, so the utility has only 2 components, and CCE has 3 components. And so the utility has electricity generation and the transmission, and CCE has one more, which is the exit fee. The exit fee is a fee that Community Choice Energy has to pay to the utility for the taking over of the customers. Because when a Community Choice Energy starts, they basically take the whole resident and businesses of the city, and so they automatically goes into CCE. So in order to compensate the utility that already made procurement for the customers, they have this fee. So the utility delivery rate, it accounts for 60% of the electricity cost, and the fee, it accounts for 12% of the electricity cost. So you see that CCE has a roughly, this is for residential cost structure, but it's similar with the businesses. And so only 30% is the electricity generation. So we can see that they actually have a very lower electricity prices, but because of the exit fee, then it's more or less similar to the utility. Economic and environmental results. So far, both CCE has created some local jobs, and they actually contributed, both of them, to local and regional renewable development, and they also contributed to greenhouse gas emissions reduction and energy efficiency and water efficiency and so on. So what does it do, CCE? It promotes technology innovation at the local level, like cost-effective distributed generation, energy efficiency programs, demand-side management, and demand response program to offset annual capacity requirements. And this is because the city decides what to do. And so it can implement all this new technology, automated demand response program, smart grid connected home devices, energy storage, and new platform for aggregating and scheduling load into CAISO, which is the independent system operator. But this is just an example of what a city can do. And talking about smart cities in the future, the city will need to discover more and technology and implement it locally. Some financial results that I was looking at this year that are a little more available today. So we can see marine clean energy started in 2010, but in reality they started in 2009 to set up the whole process. It was the first community choice energy, and it took a little longer to create it because they had opposition from the utility, and it's always like that when you have but they actually started to sell electricity at the end of 2010. And so we can see that from that period here, you know, this was the end of 2010. So 2011 until today, they increased their net position. And also in Sonoma Clean Power, they started in 2014, and we can see that it was directly increasing their net position. And the main thing of community choice energy is that the money stays local. And that means that the city decides what to do with the so-called profit that today they go to the shareholders, so the utility. And so the profits stay local, and the city decides what to do. So as I mentioned, the only time that there were a decrease of net position, it was during the planning and startup phases. So that means that it's profitable since the first year of operation, basically. Liquidity, we can see that both CCE have positive cumulative cash flow, so they pay off their debts and they don't have any problem whatsoever with cash flow. Results. The main strengths of opportunities that I discover is that the social and environmental benefits and costs are the main strengths, but also the main opportunities, because they create local jobs at the local level. City can reduce greenhouse gas emission in a significant ways based on the decision on the investment. They can support the renewable energy development locally and regionally, and also reduce overall their carbon footprint. The main weaknesses is that they had a poor customer relationship and weak channels, probably because they're still new, and so they have to improve this aspect, but that was the main result of my master thesis. The main threat, of course, the cost structure, because costs can grow significantly and unpredictably, and also the revenue streams, the margins can be threatened by the competitors or by technology. The competitors in this case is the utility. So specific recommendation here is to keep a well-balanced cost structure with cost-efficient operation and through effective management systems. And the second main threat is customer segments. So there is a potential risk of losing market share. That means customers that are with CCE, they can return to the utility. And so my recommendation here is to improve customer personalization, to have a better brand loyalty and increase trust, and also improve channels efficiency and effectiveness. So communicate to the citizens the importance of community choice energy and the benefit for the local community. Some conclusion, so CCE is a model for city and local governments to significantly decrease their greenhouse gas emissions and to shift toward a more sustainable energy. Key points, when a city wants to set up a community choice energy, it's very important to analyze the external environment in terms of electricity market, legislation, regulation, and competitors, and so on. Second aspect is it's very important to have, since the beginning, a long-term mission and focused vision, where to go. And like our friends here, Fadi, say the first night of our conference, to set up a goal, you're more likely to reach it than not to have one. So it's very important to set a mission and vision. And then going a little more down, it's important to plan carefully, to have a diversified portfolio of renewable energy sources, to establish long-term contracts for price stability, but also to have short-term contracts so you can play a little more with the cost prices for renewable energy. And also to monitor the technology changes in the sector. And then down is local customer and local needs. So CCE is local. So it's important to know your customer, to know your local needs, and to have a solid marketing campaign, strong customer relationship, and again, effective communication channels. Now, at the end of my master thesis, based on the results, I created a strategy map. And here we have the four perspectives of the balanced scorecard, learning and growth, internal, customer, and financial. And then at learning and growth, I have develop internal and technical workforce skills and competencies. And it's very important for CCE to develop internal staff with technical skills. So at the beginning, maybe you don't have that, so you hire consultants to work on that, but with the time, you should train your workforce internally. And in the internal, we have maintained a diversity of key partners within the community choice energy, build a strong and diverse portfolio of energy sources aligned with value proposition, design effective communication channels, and maximize cost-efficient operation. And then going to another block, here we have the customer, deliver customer-focused value service, as I say, to know your market, know your customers, and to strengthen customer relations. This is very, very important. And in the financial one, you need to design adequate price charges, and the city is in charge of doing this, and to allocate funds for the energy resources development. That's very important too. And again, on top of everything, to have a vision and a focus mission like reducing greenhouse gas emission, and to increase local renewable development and energy efficiency measure. And a long-term vision, for instance, become 100% renewable energy by 2050. Summary, CCE, based on my research, is effective in providing higher percentage of electricity from renewable energy at competitive prices. It's a great tool for cities and local government to achieve efficiency, resiliency, and sustainability. It stimulates technology innovation at the local level. It's also an economic development tool, provide project finances for renewable energy projects. And finally, it increases energy security through local control over a city energy sources. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks, Silvia.
Question?
I have two questions.
Two.
First question about those 2 or 3 utilities, marinas.
CCE, yeah, marine clean energy. Sonoma, clean power.
The third one, yeah. Are they major players, or they are? What's their percentage contribution in the total energy supply in California?
No, these are the first CCEs, so community choice energy, that were established in California. And so Marin and Sonoma are actually two regions, so they aggregate the cities within the region, and they started as a CCE. And before, the electricity was procured by the utility, and today it's the city that procures electricity for the residents. So as I said, Marin has 250,000 customers at the moment, so and Sonoma 190,000. So they're little compared to the population of California, but it's a model that is being replicated in other cities, and so.
And they are growing.
They're growing. Today there are 8 operational CCEs, so it means San Francisco in 2016, I think, and at the end of 2016, and then we have Los Angeles is starting soon, and Silicon Valley, but it's a lot of big cities in California are thinking of doing that. And
so what would be the motive for the other utilities, the major player, to go into this concept, the CCE concept?
Well, CCE is actually not for utilities. CCE is to create competition in the market. Today, only utilities has procure and generate electricity, and so they monopolize the market prices. Like I live in San Diego, North County, and my default provider is San Diego Gas and Electrics, and I cannot choose any other. So in California, they don't have these liberalized markets as we have here in Europe. They tried in 2000, but then it didn't work. It was not well regulated, and so they came back to a monopolized electricity market.
And my second question is...
It's the third one.
It's 1.5. About the community, the customer.
Yeah.
So within the exit fee, demotivate the customer to have to choose the renewable energy source?
Well, no, not really, because their bill basically doesn't change. So they will receive the same bill with the utility today sent to them, but they have two different voices. One is generation and procurement, and one is transmission. And so, as I showed before in my slide, the prices of the generation is actually slightly lower, which include the exit fee, is lower than the utility. And so the customer doesn't really see this fee. Yeah.
Good question.
About the exit fee, is there any time frame for that type of fee? Because that's pretty much abusing the...
Yeah, that's a good question. And there, the CPUC, which is the California Public Utilities Commission, they are working on restructuring this exit fee. It's still a new model, and so when they created it, they created it in a way that today doesn't have any deadline, so it's like forever, but the community choice energy is trying to lobby and say we need to actually put a sort of deadline or to restructure this exit fee, because it's true, it's hard. Yeah, the electricity prices could be really lower without this exit fee. So, yeah. Okay.
I have done. Is it a separate company, or is it included in the cities?
So it can be done differently. The one that I showed to you, they basically created a public agency. So it's external to the city with a different. It's like a SPV, like a special vehicle, purpose vehicle, and so they have their own budget, and then you have a team, a staff that work there, which could be the one that worked in the city before or totally new. That's one way.
And the second question, maybe they could they could open up the capital to the customers.
What do you mean, open up?
That the customer could buy a part of the company.
Well, it's an agency, it's a non-profit. Sorry?
With public funding?
It's self-sustained. So basically, the money that you receive from customer, they pay the bills, they go into the agency. So it's like a sort of company, but it's a non-profit. And so the profit that they make, they reinvest locally. Yeah, so it's self-sustained. They don't need any findings, except to set up at the beginning and create the procurement of electricity.
But going to this question, I guess, do they have some sort of rules where private investors cannot, so they don't appropriate, so they don't take over the agency, right?
Yeah. But again, a third method that one city is implementing today, it's that an external company, so a for-profit, is actually organize the community choice energy on behalf of the city. We still don't know that because they will ask a percentage for this service, and so yeah, I would not recommend that for city because then the profits again, the part of it that goes to this company. So.
California is a very progressive state, so no surprise that CCS are implementing there. But do you know if there's other CCEs outside California, or do you think that it's feasible for more conservative states like Texas or Alabama to implement this kind of initiatives? Not because the financial benefit, but maybe because they're afraid of trying to do things.
Now, there are other CCEs. It's called Community Choice Aggregator, and that actually was set up at the federal level. There is a law that allows city to do that. The problem is that in other parts of the US, it's actually currently 6 states that are doing that. They don't focus on renewable energy development. They just focus to buy cheaper electricity, so to offer cheaper prices. So they still buy fossil fuel-based electricity.